The eviction notice stares at me from the kitchen counter while my daughter, Lily, asks for the 100th time when Daddy's coming home. I pour her cereal with the last of the milk, knowing there's no money for more until my sister sends me something next week, if she even answers my texts this time. Soon, baby, I lie, just like I've been lying for the past 8 months. Daddy's just working really hard right now. She nods and goes back to her cartoon, but I can see she doesn't believe me anymore. 9-year-olds are smarter than people think. She knows something's wrong. She knows Daddy isn't coming back. She knows because she was there that night. She saw everything, and now she barely looks me in the eye. The frosted flakes are stale. Everything in this apartment is stale, expired, falling apart. The air conditioner broke 2 months ago, and the landlord won't fix it until I pay the 3 months back rent I owe. Riverside in August is hell without AC. Mason's been getting heat rash, crying all night. Not that it matters anymore. He's leaving tomorrow, and it's all my fault. Well, not all my fault, but mostly. I check my phone again. 12 missed calls from numbers I don't recognize. Probably collection agencies. The car payment's 2 months late. Credit cards all maxed and canceled. Even the payday loan place won't give me more money. Funny how fast you can go from princess to pauper when the money stops flowing. 6 months ago, I had everything figured out. Nice apartment in Riverside paid for by my husband. No job to worry about. 2 beautiful kids. A side piece who actually excited me. Life was perfect until my husband decided to play detective and ruin everything with one stupid DNA test. The look on his face when he found out Mason wasn't his. Like I'd killed someone. So dramatic. So what if Mason wasn't his? He'd been raising him for 3 years already. What difference did biology make? But no, he had to make it into this huge deal. Screaming at me about trust and lies and betrayal, like he was some perfect saint who never looked at another woman. Please. I saw his browser history. The thing is, I never meant for it to go as far as it did. When he started yelling that night, something in me just snapped. 3 years of being stuck at home with kids while he got to go out and have an adult life. 3 years of pretending to be grateful for the money he threw at me like I was some charity case. 3 years of him acting like he was God's gift because he paid the bills. How could you do this to me? He kept saying, holding that DNA test like it was evidence in a murder trial. 3 years, Sandra. 3 years I loved that boy like my own. You're being dramatic, I said, trying to stay calm. So he's not yours biologically, you're still his dad. Still his dad? I'm nothing. I'm just the idiot who's been paying for another man's kid. That's when I laughed. Couldn't help it. The self-pity was just too much. Poor Brett, working his warehouse job, thinking he was some kind of hero for doing what millions of men do every day. You think this is funny? His face was getting red, that vein in his forehead starting to pop out. I think you're being a baby, I said. So Mason isn't yours. Big deal. You didn't seem to mind when you were posting all those proud daddy photos on Instagram. Because I thought he was mine. And now suddenly you don't love him anymore? What kind of father does that make you? That's when he called me a whore. Just straight up said it. You're nothing but a lying whore who tricked me into raising another man's bastard. So yeah, I hit him, slapped him right across his sanctimonious face, then kicked him when he turned to walk away. He just stood there and took it, which made me even angrier. What kind of man just stands there? Even when Lily ran out crying, he just kept staring at me with those pathetic, wounded eyes. Fight back, I screamed at him. Do something! But he wouldn't. Just stood there like a statue while I lost it completely. I threw his coffee mug at the wall, grabbed his work shirt and tried to rip it, even spit in his face. Nothing. No reaction. Just that same disappointed look, like I was some kind of animal he was observing at the zoo. I'm packing a bag and leaving, he said quietly, walking toward our bedroom. Oh, you're leaving? You're leaving. I followed him, still raging. 20 grand. That's what Mason's cost you over 3 years. Diapers, formula, clothes, toys. $20,000 you spent on a kid that isn't even yours. How's that feel, Brett? How's it feel to be the world's biggest sucker?" He stopped packing for a second, his shoulders slumping. "Is that really how you see it? As money? That's what it is? You're not his father, you're just the idiot who paid the bills." That's when Lily came back, my neighbor, Mrs. Chen, behind her. "Mommy's hitting Daddy," Lily was saying through her tears. "Make her stop." Mrs. Chen took one look at the scene, the broken mug, Brett's torn shirt, my wild hair, and pulled out her phone. I didn't realize she was calling 911 until it was too late. When the police showed up, I did what I had to do. Survival instinct kicked in. I cried. Told them he'd grabbed me by the hair, threatened me with a knife from the kitchen. Made myself shake a little, kept touching my neck like it hurt. Those male cops ate it up. Big bad husband terrorizing his poor little wife. They didn't even question it. "Ma'am, can you tell us what happened?" the older cop asked, all concern and sympathy. I made my voice small, scared. He found out that our son might not be his. I don't know why he thinks that. He just started screaming at me, calling me names. I let out a sob. He grabbed me by my hair and dragged me to the kitchen. He said he was going to make me pay. Did he have a weapon? I nodded, pointing to the knife block. He pulled one out, waved it at me. I was so scared. My daughter saw everything. She ran to get help. The younger cop was already cuffing Brett in the living room. I could hear him trying to explain, his voice getting more desperate. "Officers, please, I have video on my phone, my security camera. It shows—" "Sir, you need to calm down," the cop interrupted. "You can tell your side to the judge." "But I didn't do anything. She's lying. Check my phone, please." They didn't check his phone. Why would they? They had a crying woman with marks on her arms, from my own nails when I was scratching at him, and a traumatized child. Open and shut case. I watched from the window as they put him in the police car. He looked back at the apartment one last time, and our eyes met. The betrayal in his face almost made me feel something. Almost. Then I remembered the way he'd looked at that DNA test, like his whole world was ending over one little lie. Drama queen. He deserved what he got. The restraining order was almost too easy to get. One tearful testimony to a judge about how scared I was, how he'd been getting more aggressive lately, how I feared for my children's safety. Boom, he's out of his own apartment, and I'm sitting pretty with Roberto moving in the next week. Roberto. Now that was a real man. Rough hands from construction work, tattoos everywhere, actually knew how to handle a woman instead of treating her like some delicate flower. The sex was incredible. Finally, someone who didn't ask permission for everything, who took what he wanted. For a few weeks, it was perfect. Roberto in my bed every night. My husband's checks still coming in for child support. Him begging through lawyers to see the kids while I ignored every request. I even sent him some pictures of Roberto and me just to twist the knife a little. What was he going to do? He had a restraining order against him. The pictures were cruel, I'll admit that. Roberto shirtless in Brett's old spot on the couch. Me wearing the lingerie Brett had bought me for our anniversary. Mason calling Roberto Dada in a video I made sure to send from a friend's phone so it couldn't be traced back as contact violation. Then the lawyers' letters started pouring in, begging for visitation, offering supervised visits, promising to follow any conditions I set. I threw them all in the trash. Let him suffer. Let him know what it felt like to be powerless for once. Roberto moved fast. Within a week, his stuff was everywhere. Work boots in the hallway, beer cans on every surface, cigarette smells seeping into everything even though I'd told him not to smoke inside. But what was I going to say? I needed him there to keep up appearances, to make Brett think he'd been replaced. "This place is a dump," Roberto said one afternoon, looking around with disgust. "When's your ex gonna buy you something better?" "It's temporary," I promised. "Once the divorce goes through, I'll get half of everything. His 401k, the car, probably alimony too." "Better be soon," I ain't trying to live in this shithole forever. I ignored the warning signs. The way he'd disappear for days. The random women calling his phone at night. The way he'd look at me sometimes like I was just another problem to deal with. I told myself it didn't matter. He was just a placeholder until I figured out my next move. I should have known it was too good to last. First sign of trouble was when Roberto started asking about money. When was my divorce settlement coming through? How much was the apartment? Why was there never any food in the fridge? I told him to be patient, that everything would work out once the divorce was final and I got my half of everything. Your half of what? He'd asked one night, looking around our bare apartment. The guy works at a warehouse. What kind of money you think you're getting? That's when I realized I'd never actually asked what my husband did for a living. I just assumed from the way he always had cash that he made good money. Turns out warehouse supervisors don't make nearly what I thought they did. Turns out he'd been working double shifts and a weekend job to afford our lifestyle. The second sign was when Roberto met Mason. He took one look at my son's light skin and green eyes and laughed. "This kid's half white," he said. "You've been messing around longer than you said." I tried to explain about the guy from my old job, how it was just one time, how it didn't mean anything. Roberto didn't care about my explanations. He cared that I'd lied to him. Said if I'd lie about that, what else was I lying about? The truth? Everything. I lied about everything. Always have. I lied to my husband about loving him when we got married. He was stable, boring, safe. The kind of guy who'd work himself to death to take care of his family. The kind of guy who'd never leave. Perfect for someone like me who just wanted to be taken care of. I lied about being on birth control when I got pregnant with Lily. Figured a baby would lock him down even more. And it worked. He cried happy tears in the delivery room, promised her he'd always be there, that he'd give her everything. Sucker. I lied about wanting to be a stay-at-home mom. Really, I just didn't want to work. Why should I have to get up at dawn and deal with customers when I could stay home and watch TV while the kids were at school? I lied about where his money went. He thought I was buying organic food and educational toys. Really, I was buying clothes and getting my nails done while the kids ate cereal for dinner. I lied about Mason's father. Told my husband it must have been a mistake, that the test was wrong, that I'd never cheated. Even when the evidence was right there in black and white, I kept lying. But the biggest lie, telling the police he'd threatened me, that lie felt different, heavier. Even as the words came out of my mouth, I knew I was crossing a line I couldn't come back from. Roberto left 2 months after he moved in. Turned out he was only interested when he thought I had money coming. Once he realized I was just another broke single mom living off child support, he was gone. Didn't even say goodbye, just came home one day and his stuff was cleared out. That's when the bills started piling up. See, I'd never paid attention to how much things actually cost. Electric, water, internet, groceries. My husband had always handled all that. I just spent what was in the account. Now, with only child support coming in, I couldn't cover even half of it. I tried getting a job, walked into a dozen places with my resume that hadn't been updated in 4 years. The managers would look at the gap in employment and ask what I'd been doing. Raising my children, I'd say proudly. They'd nod politely and say they'd call. They never called. Walmart offered me part-time at minimum wage. I laughed in the manager's face. Me? Working at Walmart? Scanning groceries like some teenager? I had standards. Those standards got me an eviction notice 3 months later. That's when I started calling my husband. Blocked number at first, just breathing into the phone when he answered, trying to work up the courage to speak. Then I got bolder, started leaving voicemails, crying, apologizing, begging him to come home. He never responded. I tried everything. Showed up at his job until security escorted me out. Sent letters to his lawyer saying I'd dropped the restraining order. Had Lily call him from my sister's phone, crying for Daddy. Nothing worked. The worst part was finding out he was doing fine. Better than fine. My neighbor told me he'd gotten promoted at work. Saw pictures on social media of him at the gym, looking better than he had in years. While I was drowning, he was thriving. Last month, I hit rock bottom. Power got shut off. Had to send Lily to stay with my sister because I couldn't feed her. Mason's father, his real father, laughed when I asked for help. Said it wasn't his problem I'd tried to pass his kid off as another man's. So I did the only thing I could think of. Went to my husband's new apartment to beg in person. I knew where he lived because I'd followed him home one day. Sat outside for hours, practicing what I'd say. How sorry I was. How I'd made a mistake. How the kids needed their daddy. When he opened the door, I almost didn't recognize him. He'd lost weight, gained muscle, looked younger somehow. Happier. Behind him, I could see a woman's jacket on the coat rack. "What do you want?" he asked. Not mean, just tired. "I need help," I said. "The kids—" "My lawyer handles all communication about Lily," he interrupted. "And Mason isn't my responsibility." "But you raised him for 3 years. Because you lied to me for 3 years." I started crying then. Real tears, not the fake ones I'd used on the police. Told him about the eviction, about having no money, about sending Lily away. I waited for him to soften, to invite me in, to fix everything like he always had. Instead, he pulled out his phone and showed me a video. It was from his apartment's security camera. Me hitting him, kicking him. Him just standing there, taking it. Audio clear as day, me screaming that Mason wasn't his, that I'd never loved him, that he was pathetic. "I kept this for protection," he said quietly. "In case you tried to lie again." My blood went cold. "Why didn't you show this to the police?" "Because I didn't want my daughter's mother in jail." "But I'm done protecting you from your own choices." He started to close the door. "The divorce will be final next month." "I'll have full custody of Lily. My lawyer says with your history of false accusations and inability to provide, you'll be lucky to get supervised visits. You can't take her from me." "I'm not taking her. You gave her away when you chose lies over family." The door closed in my face. That was 3 weeks ago. Now I'm packing what little I have left into garbage bags, getting ready to live out of my car. My sister won't take me in anymore. Says I burned too many bridges. My parents disowned me years ago for other lies I told. Even the women's shelter wouldn't take me when they found out I'd filed a false abuse claim. I've applied everywhere. Fast food, retail, cleaning offices. Nobody wants to hire someone with no recent work history and an eviction on their record. The manager at Dollar Tree actually recognized me from when I used to shop there, spending my husband's money on junk. She glanced at my application, then dropped it straight in the trash. Lily calls sometimes from my sister's phone, asks when she can come home, asks why Daddy won't let her see me. I tell her soon, baby, soon. Another lie to add to the pile. My husband filed for full custody last week. His lawyer included screenshots of my texts to Roberto, talking about how boring being a mom was, how I couldn't wait for the kids to be someone else's problem. They had the video of me assaulting him, the false police report I'd filed, everything. My court-appointed lawyer says I should be grateful if I get supervised visits once a month. Yesterday was the custody hearing. I wore my only clean dress, tried to look like the mother they took away from me. The judge didn't buy it. Kept asking about my employment, my living situation, my plans for the future. What could I say? That I was sleeping in storage units? That I'd been showering at the gym until they revoked my membership for non-payment? Brett showed up looking like a different person. Suit and tie, fresh haircut. His lawyer, a woman of course, laid out everything. The false accusations, the police report from Mrs. Chen saying she saw me attacking him. Bank records showing I'd drained our joint account while he was in jail. Text messages to Roberto calling my own kids baggage and Brett's problem now. They even had a report from Lily's therapist. Apparently she's been having nightmares about that night, draws pictures of Mommy as a monster. Told the therapist she's scared I'll hurt Daddy again. My own daughter testified against me. 9 years old, speaking clearly into the microphone about how she saw me hitting her father, how she ran for help, how I lied to the police. Brett's lawyer asked her where she wanted to live. "With Daddy," Lily said without hesitation. "He keeps me safe." I wanted to scream that I was her mother, that she belonged with me. But what came out was bitter laughter. Even my own kid had chosen him over me, just like everyone else. Mason's with his real dad now. Turns out when I contacted him for money, he got interested in his son, got a paternity test, filed for custody. Since I was homeless and he had a stable job and wife, it wasn't even a contest. Picked Mason up last week like he was collecting a package. 3 years of raising that boy, and he doesn't even cry when he leaves me. I know I should feel worse about losing my kids, but honestly, the thing that hurts most is knowing my husband won. He gets to move on with his new girlfriend, his better job, his fresh start. While I'm sleeping in my car, he's living his best life. He was supposed to fall apart without me. Crawl back, begging to fix things. Need me. Instead, I'm the one who needs him, needed him. Past tense now. My phone's about to get shut off for non-payment. Can't afford the bill. Last thing I did was creep on his Facebook from a fake account. There's a picture of him and Lily at the zoo. She's laughing, holding a stuffed elephant. He looks peaceful, happy, free. The caption reads, "New beginnings with my favorite girl." In the comments, someone asked what happened to her mom. His response was simple. She made her choices. Yeah, I did. And every single one of them led me here, sitting in an empty apartment I can't afford, waiting for the sheriff to escort me out, scrolling through pictures of the life I threw away for a few months of excitement with a man who forgot my name the minute something better came along. My husband used to say actions have consequences. I'd roll my eyes when he'd lecture about responsibility and planning for the future. Boring stuff that boring men worry about. Turns out boring men who worry about the future end up with futures. And women like me? We end up with nothing but the lies we told and the bridges we burned. No home, no kids, no backup plan, just consequences. I keep thinking about that night. If I'd just admitted the truth about Mason. If I'd apologized instead of attacking. If I'd been grateful for what I had instead of always wanting more. Would things be different? But that's just another lie I tell myself. The truth is, I was always going to end up here. Because I'm not capable of being honest. Not with others, not with myself. I'm a user who ran out of people to use. A liar who ran out of people to believe me. And now I'm alone, exactly what I deserve.